the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, this is the October 21st, 2024 Planning Board meeting. I hereby announce that this meeting is being held in accordance with Chapter 231 of the Open Public Meeting Act. Proper notice of meeting dates has been given to the Morris News-Bee and the Morris County Daily Record and posted on the bulletin board in the Borough Hall. This meeting is a judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to issues that are relevant to what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision, and decorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. Roll call, please, Karen.
Mr. Augenblick.
Present.
Mr. Battagliese. Mrs. Kelly. Mrs. Steckert. Mrs. McCluskey.
Present?
Mr. Kelly. Mr. Bezo.
Here.
Mayor Carr.
Present.
And Mr. Drusen.
Present.
Okay, do we have any comments from the public to speak on matters that are not on the agenda? Seeing no one, we'll move on to correspondence and bills. Karen, do we have any correspondence?
We have no correspondence.
Mr. Kelly, can we?
Yes, I have invoice number 202-41923 from Marigny Telephone for legal services dated October 8th in the amount of $315. And purchase order number 202-41927 from Michelle Quick for transcript dated October 2nd for $126. I have invoice number 202-41947 from Phillips Price and Bridal for planning in general dated 9/30/24 for $4,521.25. And no questions, I recommend approval for the invoice.
Is there a second? Second. Do we have roll call, please?
Mr. Augenblick.
Yes.
Mrs. Kelly.
Yes.
Mrs. Steckert.
Yes.
Mrs. McCluskey.
Yes.
Mr. Kelly.
Yes.
Mr. Bezo.
Yes.
Mayor Carr. And
Yes.
Mr. Drusen.
Yes.
Okay,
So, can I say something? Is if everybody, when they speak, you have to speak close to the mic so that everybody can hear you. Just pull it up
Okay.
and talk directly into the mic because they can't hear you so far away.
Okay, we'll have approval of the minutes of the September 16th, 2024 meeting, and the minutes are actually the transcript. So there wouldn't be any corrections or additions. Anybody have any corrections or additions? No? Okay, could we have a motion to accept the transcript as the minutes?
I make a motion.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Myself.
Okay, great. Committee reports, minor site plan committee? Here for that. Master plan review committee?
Yes, Madam Chairman, Chairwoman. The governing body heard from a resident for a request for zone change up on 300 Tabor Road from residential to C1. So the master plan committee will have a meeting and we'll discuss it and come back to the planning board. Everyone should have got a copy of his presentation today. And for those who might not know where 300 Tabor Road is, it's that island. You know, when you go, if you're going to Denville and you go to Route 10, it's that island there, and that's zoned residential, and they feel that it's not inappropriate for residential, even though there's a house there, an old house. So they want to change it to C1, which is across the street on the right side if you're going to 10. So we'll take a look at that. Thank you.
Okay, now we'll proceed with the application, PB 1-24, McDonald's USA. Mr. Brewer's going to give you a little rules of the road here.
Hi, all, it's good to see you again. And truly, it is good to have public participation. All I remembered last month, just gonna request again, people follow the ground rules. You know, everybody up here is, they're your neighbors. They're volunteering to sit on this board and do what they're doing up here. They have to, and they're obligated to listen and to understand the presentation from both the applicant as well as the public. All the questions you're gonna ask and all the testimony you may or may not give when that time comes. And just, you know, it's a request to everybody, treat everybody else with respect. Don't shout people down or interrupt. It helps, and, you know, treat them as the way you want to be treated. That's a request. You'll get a chance to ask whatever questions you want that are within the bounds of what they can consider. You know, in normal conversations, you can throw out anything when you're playing around with relatives and friends and your neighbors, but here it's a limited area of what you can ask, and within bounds, you can ask some, and I understand sometimes the limitations on what you can ask and discuss are new, and do the best to explain. If that comes up, please just ask that you respect those. And then with members of the board, this is my recommendation, that when either the applicant or the public is speaking or asking questions, that's for the witness testimony. That's not for members, and it will move things along if there's really shouldn't be any give and take back and forth with members of the board. It's simply when the public speak as many questions as they want about the testimony. And that would be my request and my recommendation. Back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, thank you. So when we concluded the last meeting, there were still people here that had questions. And so the questions would be to the engineer who presented the site plan. So are any of those people here, or do any of you have any questions of that witness? You have to come forward, state your name and address and your question, please.
Sure, Daniel Conway, 3 Greenwood Road, Morris Plains, New Jersey. Daniel Conway, 3 Greenwood Road, Morris Plains, New Jersey. As a follow-up to the last meeting, some of the questions I asked towards traffic. I wanted to ask you about transaction size, so the number of transactions. Are you aware of what an average McDonald's does on a daily basis, the number of transactions?
I'm not.
So, of the 60 McDonald's that you've reviewed or your firm has reviewed, were they all new builds?
No, they were remodel projects, rebuild projects, and new build projects.
What would be the,
I'm sorry, hold on. You have to hold the mic closer. This is the last thing you said. I'm sorry, you said they were remodel projects, rebuild projects,
And new build.
of the remodel, is that, of the remodel, were they just design remodel, or was there issues on the site that had to be redone? Traffic, drive-throughs?
Typically, a remodel would be refreshing a tired site, so like bringing in new architectural design, replacing a single drive-through site with a dual drive-through site, and similar site improvements to that regard.
I'm sorry.
Similar improvements to that regard.
Hold on.
In the single to double lane drive-throughs, in your analysis, what were you working off of in terms of determining what was the right size for the car queue, for other things? Did McDonald's give you any information?
In those instances where we were taking a site from a single drive-through lane to a dual drive-through lane, the goal was to increase the efficiency of the site a lot of times the single drive-through sites would have stacking potentially to the property line or even, out into a shopping center, circulation aisle. And the intent of the site improvements in bringing the second drive-through lane was to increase the efficiency of the drive-through lane so that you are now reducing that queue. And I believe I touched upon it last time, where we've done pre and post testing, traffic studies on where we've done from single lane to a dual lane, and the number of cars stacked on a site are pretty much reduced in half when we go from the single to the double. So there were no sales numbers we were getting. Implementing the McDonald's standards into the site design.
Okay, so in the studies that you reviewed to create these new traffic lanes, what was that based off of? What volume of autos or transactions were happening that was causing the stacking issue? In the course of an hour, an average hour, or lunch hour, or breakfast or dinner?
It was independent of the traffic on the site, or rather the volume. It was more of implementing, again, the McDonald's standards, their standard drive-through templates onto a site that didn't have it.
So you're referencing McDonald's standards,
Yes.
but there's no data to back up what that traffic volume is, that transaction volume is?
No, not in implementing their design standards, their drive-through layouts onto an existing site.
So they don't provide you any information to say, we do X number of transactions in the course of a period of time, we need to make sure that our queue can support X.
No, because they're two separate things. The drive-through improvements would be qualified based on the store doing well. So there'll be traffic at there'll be longer stacking at a store, and potentially that's because the volumes are higher from a sales perspective, so they're trying to reinvest in those stores that are well performing, rather, because you still have out there stores that are not modernized, that don't have dual lanes, so that's where their focus is the successful stores that get these new standards. The standards that McDonald's has developed as far as their layouts are really independent of the volume of that store.
So there's over 10,500 McDonald's stores in the United States, roughly, franchise locations from, according to their website. They couldn't provide any kind of average to justify certain things, certain traffic numbers, certain transaction amounts to you, to make sure that the traffic queue lines are acceptable?
If the question is, did I need that information to design a site or modernize a site? The answer is no.
Well, the question is, did they?
No.
So McDonald's didn't provide you any information?
No.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm surprised. I read an average McDonald's does 3.5 million in sales. That's about 1,000 transactions a day. What would a drive-through of this size be able to handle in the course of an hour in terms of cars and volume on site?
The traffic engineer is going to talk through the trip generation of the store, and again, he'll touch upon this shortly when he gets up tonight. The traffic is based on building size, not the drive-through. The drive-through isn't driven by just drive-through, it's driven in traffic volume by the size of the building, the square footage.
Okay, I guess that's not really an answer that I'm looking for. You designed a site, you designed a drive-through, and you said that this could hold 10 cars in the queue and prevent any potential traffic issues. I'm not talking about the trip generation. I want to know on site, and whether you can answer this or not, I guess is my concern, in the course of an hour, a rush hour, at what point does the queue become overloaded? And what could the McDonald's of this size handle in transactions? Because this queue, right, this is kind of a concern, is a problem. So I want to know from your design, you're comfortable saying X number of cars can go through this site without queuing onto the street or backing up into the road because of the design.
The building area here is 3,036 square feet. The stacking spaces that we have provided, I am comfortable saying will be maintained within the drive-through facilities, based on the building of this size.
Respectfully, I don't think that's an answer. There's, you know, if you have your own studies, if you design 60 of these, I think comfortably, or I would request that you, based on the knowledge that you have, provide some kind of guidance to us as the public to say, this can handle 200 cars an hour, or 150 cars an hour, or whatever it may be, on top of, you know, cars having to wait for their food, or Uber drivers, or other things. Totally separate from trip generation is on site. You know, I respectfully don't think those are answers that are answering the question.
Our traffic expert will also be addressing exactly what those issues are as well.
Okay. In the last meeting, you discussed an 18-wheeler on site. You had a slide, which I don't have the slide number. Could you? Thank you. Could you show that slide and explain? So you have it coming south on 202 and making a left-hand turn into that side. Is that the expected lane of travel? And then you have it exiting out onto the side road, and then making a right. It appears anyway. Is that accurate? Is that the expected?
We have certain exhibits that we prepared that show the revisions to the plans that we have made in this case. One of the exhibits that we supplied is a depiction of a tractor trailer and how it moves through the site. So if the board would like us to present all the revisions at once, we're happy to do that. And then Mr. Conway can come back up if he has questions. Or, you know, because if we start showing things, it's all going to get disjointed.
Okay, in your design, it's your site plan, right? Based on McDonald's. What was your anticipated direction of travel for the 18-wheelers?
As I testified to last time, the truck can enter the site either northbound or southbound from Speedwell Avenue. This plan, which is in front of everyone, shows it coming southbound and making a left into the site.
So you're comfortable that there's enough room on 202 heading north to make a hard right-hand turn into the site without interfering with the drive-through or exiting vehicles?
Yes.
Now, if in the last meeting there was discussion about either eliminating the exit onto the side road, how would the tractor trailer exit the property if that was the case?
We have an exhibit that we're going to be showing where we have reconfigured that drive, and there's also a turn diagram for an 18-wheeler, so we will be presenting that this evening along with our other revisions to the plan. And Mr. Conway, you're welcome to come back up and ask questions about that revised exhibit.
Thank you. So you're going to, that'll be tonight?
Yes, sir.
I appreciate that. Thank you. When you discussed the total number of parking spots and the town ordinance, there was a discussion about McDonald's, there being about 16 McDonald's employees potentially taking up those spots. You also said, I think in response to that, that the majority of McDonald's employees will be, or usually take public transportation. Why is that? Is it not something that McDonald's would be employing people in town? I mean, if it's a job creator, why are we taking away the concern for 16 spots that would be taken up by employees?
The number of employees is the 16 that you're referring to, that's for a peak condition, so that is not, you know, an everyday or every shift occurrence. Typically that would be only on, you know, the busiest time they would bring in additional staff for that. And the answer to the second part of that question about the, you know, employees, as I mentioned, there's, you know, different means of transportation, and intent is absolutely to hire from the community. What I was referring to last time is sometimes the owner-operators that are selected will have multiple stores, and they'll actually show people from their different stores. So the demand for 16 parking spaces for employees only on site is just not an accurate representation of what would be demanded from the store.
But that was what your response was initially.
No, I said the peak number of employees was 16. I didn't say all 16 would be driving and parking on site.
So what's the average number of employees on site?
Typically, it's 9 to 10 on a regular shift.
9 to 10? Thank you.
Can I make a suggestion? I think the engineer should be on this side of the table while he's asking questions, so he can speak directly into the mic and look at the people when they ask the question. That's what I think. Because it goes like this, it fades away. That's my 2 cents.
Jill Cecere, 11 Dayton Road. CDC, ERE, 11 Dayton Road. Mr. Conway asked several of my questions, but I had a question. The last meeting, there was mention, somebody, I don't remember exactly who, but on the planning board had asked why not just eliminate the Dayton Road exit, and they were told that would be explained later in the meeting, but it wasn't, so could you explain now?
Yeah, I think that comment was more, the traffic engineer will also touch upon it, but essentially 2 driveways makes more of a more efficient design, where we have parking on the south side of the building and on the east side. If you're parking in those spaces to exit the store or the site, you'd have to go all the way around the building if you only had 1 driveway. Keeping 2 driveways gives us an extra point to exit. So say, so that's more efficient right there, where you're able to exit the site and not having to circulate the building twice. Also, if there's someone at the Speedwell Avenue driveway and they're trying to make a turn that's taking longer, you would choke up the entire site as far as the circulation. So you prevent someone who might be making a turn in a different direction from making that turn. By having the 2 driveway exits, you're effectively giving 2 decision points and allowing people to, keep circulating through the site without creating any traffic congestion.
And does it also involve, does the delivery truck needs to exit that way?
As it's currently designed, the truck exits that way, and we envision it doing so for the same reason, to not have to circulate the site twice and cross it in front of the store. Again, that's where our main pedestrian connection point is. So our intent is to maintain that driveway exit for cars and for the delivery vehicle.
Are you aware that tractor trailers are not allowed on Dayton Road?
Yes. And
yet that's how it was designed.
our traffic engineer has more information on that.
Okay. Just want to make note, because regardless if people need to make a left-hand turn out of the Speedwell exit, because that's what I'm assuming that could back up traffic, the other cars that need to exit also, so they could go to Dayton Road. But I was wondering if it was designed for the tractor trailer, which the previous owner of that property, the building, the business there, they never used Dayton Road for their deliveries. You also, at the last meeting, discussed the emissions. You had like a scrubber for the odors that McDonald's, the actual restaurant, produces. Is there any consideration about the car emissions, the idling cars, the pollution that that's causing to the neighborhood?
There's no additional measures for cars on site. We'd be happy to implement some no idling signs, but that is
Well, I mean, cars have to idle, they're in the drive-through.
right.
I understand you designed the building itself, but that doesn't take into account any of the odors or pollution that's being caused by the external situations. Same with the noise. I know the menu where you place your order and the speakers, you have sound control of that, but that doesn't take into consideration the sounds of the cars, the radios, or anything else. It's just the actual menu placing speaker system.
Is the question, how do we control the noise on site?
Well, I know that you presented that that's how the noise would be controlled, because there's different times of the day, it would be lowered, and, but that's only for the actual order, the back and forth for that, right?
Correct, and in our revised plans that we were submitted, we also incorporated additional landscaping, which helps with site noise. And again, the Speedwell Avenue is a state highway, so that the volume of cars on that road will, in most cases, exceed the traffic on the site.
Okay. And then the moving of the crosswalk, moving it north, or enlarging it and moving it north. That is being created to make entering and exiting the Speedwell Avenue entrance and exit for the McDonald's. But it's actually, I believe it would be making it more dangerous for anybody, residents or customers that are making left-hand turns out of the Dayton Road, because you just turn right into a crosswalk.
So the driveway, the crosswalk was shifted to accommodate the driveway placement. The enlargement was a request from the DOT, and also there was, from the board, traffic engineer comments about adding additional signage and flashing beacons, all which have been incorporated into the revised plans. And I'll
Right, I understand the town is already, they have been working on, prior to McDonald's, trying to improve those crosswalks. But I didn't know if in the design the crosswalk was moved to accommodate McDonald's and their entrance and exit.
It is, yes.
I think that's all I have for now, but then you will be having your updated.
So we're going to show the revised plans, and you'll have another opportunity to come up based on what you see.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Jessica Orr, and I never needed a microphone, but I live at 15 Hillview Avenue, directly across from where you're putting Friendly's. And I'm sorry, where Friendly's was, McDonald's. And I have a few questions as a parent, and to all the board, actually. I'm hoping I can ask one of you a question too. Are any of you located directly off of Speedwell Avenue? Because you say that our neighbors, right? We're all neighbors here. So I just wanted to know if anyone here is directly going to be affected off of Speedwell. Because I think a lot of us here are.
Yeah, the questions have to go to the test.
Oh, I can't ask you guys questions? Okay, I have plenty, so get an email from me later. Okay, so my question to you is, my children are of the age where I would let them walk around town. Now, I'm not, because they're not gonna be safe with your plans. Can you please explain to me, I mean, you may have said it before and I'm sorry for repeating yourself, what have you looked into in studies and reports in getting children from the school safely, or children crossing the town safely? I know that you have a crosswalk and blinking lights. My children don't even stop, like when I tell them to stop. So I just need to know what you guys are thinking and how you think this is going to be effective for all of us.
It's an improvement from what's out there today as far as the crosswalk and the crossing of Speedwell Avenue. The flashing lights, that's not there today. The enlarged and wider crosswalk, that's also not there today. So those are all improvements to a condition that exists independent of the McDonald's. So we're making it a safer crosswalk and a safer crossing.
I don't believe you are, but that's okay. So in my opinion, I would also love to hear what you all are doing. What studies did you do when you looked at the school? Because there is 2 schools directly across from you. One is a preschool and one is an elementary middle school. What studies have you particularly done with all that influx of children and families?
Our traffic engineer has completed a traffic study, including pedestrian counts, so he'll be testing on that.
Okay, great. I'll ask him that question. And then my next question is also, we have a vermin problem. We got a letter from the town about a month ago that our area has a vermin problem. What are you going to do to control that when McDonald's comes in and adds to our vermin problem?
So each of the stores has their own, pests and exterminator service for regular servicing. The exterior enclosures, those are all closed and latched once trash is placed in them. And then the enclosure itself is a masonry enclosure, so the likelihood of something getting in there is reduced from a typical, chain link fence or a board-on-board fence. So it's a more, more solid structure.
Okay, and last time you were here, you talked about Dayton Road, that turn with putting a rock there, or something to stop people from turning right. Have you discussed that further, and will you be sharing that in the new plan?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you.
Hi, Don Youngher, Youngher, 10 Walsh Way. I guess my first question is, should I be asking you or the traffic engineer about traffic on site, meaning the flow of traffic from the drive-through windows to their egresses?
I'll give it a shot.
Okay. Is it accurate to say that the primary egress from the drive-through is going to be onto Speedwell using the western side, the western exit?
From a proximity standpoint, yes, it's the nearest exit. And as I just answered a question previously, the intent of the two egress driveways is to keep traffic flowing. So say there's someone at that exit point as you're exiting the drive-through lane, you can circulate the site and exit through Dayton.
So, and if you're circulating the site, you're still going to go past that that exit. In other words, you're going to go across on the western side. You said it was the primary pedestrian path was into that entrance that's on the western face of the building. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, maybe you could zoom in, or I don't know if you have any sort of measurements. I didn't get to read through this as completely as I would like. What is the distance from the window where they're going to be receiving their food to the corner, and from the corner to the pedestrian path?
So from the middle window, so there's three windows on site. So the middle window is the primary pickup window.
Okay.
The third is again just for larger orders or if something's out of sequence.
And then
so from the second window, the middle window, to edge of the building, it's approximately, call it 32 feet. And then you're another, call it 40 feet to the stop bar past the front of the building.
And then, just to clarify, from the corner, the northwest corner to the, I guess the entrance, the primary door for the pedestrians to get into on that western face.
So that's about 52 feet from property line to the building. Is that the question?
No. I mean, let me put it differently. Have you looked at how much time there will be from when someone pulls away from the window that they'll primarily be getting their food from in the drive-thru to when they cross that striped crosswalk that's on the property, on the western face, going out the door?
The number of seconds it would take to drive that
Right.
distance? A few seconds.
Okay.
I don't know exactly.
Okay, so in your design, you didn't look at how much time it would take to get from that left turn to where the pedestrians would be if they're exiting the building?
No, but if the question is about pedestrian crossing, is that what you're trying to do?
Yes, specifically on site.
So in the center here, we have a crosswalk, but it's not an at-grade crosswalk. It is at-grade with the sidewalk in front of the building, which means cars exiting the drive-through lane actually have to go up this ramp, which will raise 6 inches to a flat crossing surface, and then 6 inches down. Basically, what that's enforcing is that the pedestrian has the right of way if they are crossing in the crosswalk, to make that crossing from the street to the front of the building.
Do you know approximately how long that sort of ramp up to 6 inches is in
It's
meters?
It's 6 feet long.
Okay. Would you consider, maybe at the expense of some of the parking spaces, adding traffic calming, something to, almost like a chicane, like a way to force traffic to go the long way around and go as slowly as possible over that crosswalk?
Over the crosswalk?
Right, so rather than just the ramp up, the 6 feet of warning, so to speak, something even further out to slow them before they even approach the ramp.
We could look at it. We'll look at it.
Okay, and will it be presented in the next meeting if it's looked at?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. And my last question is just a general knowledge question, not specific to engineering, but in terms of liability. Is it the town's liability? Is it McDonald's liability? Is it yours and your firm's? I'm just worst casing, God forbid something happens with these design choices in mind, how does it work?
Well, I'm the lawyer.
Okay.
Everybody gets sued, so. Everybody.
Thank you very much.
Joe Amorosa, 20 Dayton Road. Amorosa. Can you zoom in more on the west half of the building?
Can you speak up? What was the question?
Can you zoom in more on the west half of the building? A little more, please. Any consideration for more standardized crosswalk striping, like the piano bars across Speedwell on your site?
No objection to it. We can change the striping.
What's the purpose of the concrete pads at all the crosswalks and the handicap parking?
Concrete gives us a greater construction tolerance, so we can maintain the strict constructability standards for the slopes, for running slope and cross slope in the ADA facilities.
What material gives more contrast with striping that's white?
What was that?
What pavement material gives more contrast with white striping?
Well, the black surface would.
What's safer, high contrast or low contrast?
I'd say a compliant crosswalk is safer.
What color is the parking lot lines there on the north that we're looking at?
I didn't hear the which one?
The north half of the parking lot, what color are those lines?
You mean the yellow striping?
The north.
North, this yellow?
Yes.
Yes, it's yellow striping.
What about the parking spots next to it?
Also yellow.
Why aren't those white?
These are McDonald's pickup spaces, so we changed the color. The parking that's not reserved for the various pickups are also in white.
Any consideration for moving the grease trap away from the residential properties?
You want the grease trap close to the building. It prevents these grease from sedimentizing, coagulating, rather. It is shifted away from the the residential, to the extent that it can be, where the grease lines come out of the building, but again, it's all connecting down into the sewer main that's within the sanitary easement on the east side of the site.
Can you describe the process of the emptying of that grease trap?
Yes, so typically every month or two, again, it depends on the usage, a service is retained, they'll come on site, they pump out the, what's collected and stored in the grease trap.
What type of truck?
It depends on the hauler. It's usually a smaller truck, it's not a tractor trailer.
How loud is it?
Again, it depends on
the removal process, not the truck itself.
Oh, there's no sound. It's a vacuum truck similar to.
Okay. How loud is the vacuum on the truck?
It depends on the manufacturer and the truck and the servers providing it.
Is it louder than a baby crying from 100 feet away?
Can't quantify that, but I would say no.
You will be presenting 18 revised or new exhibits, correct?
The revised site plans that was submitted, yes.
Hi, Lisa Schroeder, 97 Maple Avenue. I wanted to follow up on a question that I asked at the end of the last hearing, especially in view of the letter that you submitted dated October 8th. And it goes back to the first gentleman that spoke about the number of customers per day. That was requested testimony from Liz Lahaney. And in your letter, you say that it was addressed in the testimony, but it wasn't, because many of us have asked, what is the anticipated business volume? I even asked you if McDonald's had informed you of its 1,000 transactions a day average. Did you ask McDonald's after the hearing for that information?
Again, that's something the traffic engineer is going to touch upon based on just the traffic methodology for this.
But I'm asking for number of transactions per day. In view of my question from a month ago, did you follow up and ask them for data points on that, because they do exist?
It's something that's still being looked at.
Do they plan to produce that information?
Don't.
Okay. How would this site accommodate school buses from Central Park, that is a very large and local sports area? I was just there this weekend. There were buses everywhere. So how would this site accommodate a bus, or would the buses be prohibited?
So we don't have any bus parking on site, but a bus can enter the site and exit the site because it's smaller than the delivery vehicle.
But presumably if it came in, it would just park across all of the parking spots, right?
I wouldn't say presumably. One, that would assume there's space for that, and then it'd be taking up X number of parking spaces if it was to do that, which is not.
Where else could it park?
There are no bus parking spaces.
Okay. Would there be a sign prohibiting the buses from coming in?
We can add a sign prohibiting bus parking, yes.
Okay. And then it sounds like you've worked on a lot of different McDonald's sites. Can you talk about some additional safety measures that have been employed for pedestrian and cyclist safety beyond what you're proposing here?
I'd say the raised crosswalk that I just described is the furthest we've gone with the pedestrian focused design. Typically it'd be an at-grade crosswalk, which is typical of many sites. So in this case, we've provided something above and beyond what I've typically provided.
Okay. I'm thinking people that live here probably know that, I'm not sure if they're still doing it, but there's that lab that's by ShopRite on another very busy street, Hanover Avenue, and I've seen a police van stationed there from time to time directing traffic to allow people to turn left out of there. Would McDonald's ever be open to funding additional police FTE to rein in on the issues that are inevitable here?
That's a question for the client. We'll pose it to
Is
them.
that, I guess, is that ever anything that has been done on prior sites that you've worked on?
No, not in my experience.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Hi, Craig Moran, 7 Hillview Avenue. Of the various McDonald's sites that you've worked on in the past, how many of them have actually been in residential areas like this one?
So, I believe I did testify on that. One second, I'm just getting the number.
I apologize if you did.
So, I've worked on 13 sites where there's residential either immediately abutting the site or, in immediate proximity to the site.
They also have the double drive-through.
Yes.
Recently, there was an online comment made that the rezoning of the lots in question was a byproduct of the old Acme lot being rezoned for a drive-through. With that one being a larger lot size, farther away from schools, while it wouldn't necessarily eliminate traffic issues, was that property ever looked at in terms of putting the McDonald's there prior to here?
That's not something you don't know.
I wasn't part of the site selection process now.
Thank you.
Hi, Tom Battagliese, 2 Cutler Road.
Can you spell your last name?
Battagliese. Is there a fire zone that's required for this lot?
Fire zone, not to my knowledge, no.
Okay. If there were a tractor trailer unloading, since there's no loading unloading zone for the tractor trailer, if there was an emergency, would that be a hazard for fire trucks or other emergency vehicles if there is no fire zone?
I'll touch upon that more with the revised layout, but I'm going to say no, because even with the tractor trailer within the circulation aisles, there's still sufficient room for an emergency vehicle to circulate the site.
Okay. Somebody was just asking me about a bus. I had the same question. I was one of those people that had worked at a McDonald's for my first job, so also off the highway in South Jersey, but that's another story. So if a bus comes in and a truck is unloading, then what happens? Where does the bus go?
Again, there's no bus parking on the site, so it would have to either continue on its way, it being the bus, because otherwise you're going to be blocking traffic. Hopefully that answers the question.
Okay, so you're planning to put signage right at the entrance, the bus is not allowed? But if the cross-country team from Central Park wants to come off and get some ice cream or whatever, what do they do? They turn
We could
away?
put no bus parking, because again, there's no.
Okay, but where would they unload if there's no bus parking? Would they get off, would they stop on Speedwell Avenue and back up traffic in order to unload the bus, or where would they go?
In the same scenario where there's a delivery truck on site? Is that still the question, scenario?
Yeah.
So.
Or, but you're also saying there's no buses that should be coming into the lot, right? There's no bus parking, so.
If the delivery truck is on site, it'd either be on the south side of the building, along here, or on the east side, along the rear of the building. So the bus can temporarily, stage wherever the delivery truck is not, or any other large bus that's on the site, and unload in that manner.
So there's space for cars parked, plus a truck unloading, plus a bus to somehow squeeze through there?
You may want to come back up when he shows the revised exhibit, because it does show where the tractor trailer goes. And I think it's going to be easier for everyone to see.
Okay.
Sure.
There was a question raised about exhaust, and I have several questions on that with the drive-through exhaust. So, Are you aware of a study that's published annually, In Touch Insights it's called, and they rank drive-through service times? So last year, they showed McDonald's to have an average of 413 seconds or nearly 7 minutes for the complete drive-through cycle to occur. Are you aware of that study?
I'm not aware of that study.
What is the average drive-through time that you would expect at this McDonald's?
So I think typically what McDonald's targets is 2 minutes from placing your order to collecting your order. So again, you're at the order points for placing your order, paying at the first window, collecting at the second window. So they envision it moving more quickly. And again, the 2 drive-through lanes cuts down on that pre-order time. That's the goal of reducing that stacking.
So that's the target, but what is the average actual in New Jersey, for instance, or in the designs you've made?
I do not have an average order time.
Okay, so let's say it is in fact nearly 7 minutes, and I think this is why that question was raised earlier, the health concern around cardiovascular and respiratory diseases from drive-throughs, from idling vehicles, basically. Do you see that as a concern? Has that been raised as a concern in McDonald's designs, for example, in the residential ones, the 13 that you've designed? Has that been raised before?
Not specifically. Again, with the additional landscaping and just the advent of being a more efficient lane, I think that's addressing it in itself.
Okay.
To cut down on that idle time.
Are you aware that anti-idling laws for New Jersey have a maximum of 180 seconds for anti-idling?
Yes, I believe that's for tractor trailers.
It's for vehicles in general, but there are exemptions for drive-through. But given that the average time is likely to exceed 180 seconds, and those anti-idling laws were put in place for environmental and health reasons, would you then believe that there could be issues with citing a drive-through in a residential neighborhood, particularly one that's literally, 2 doors down from the closest residence?
I don't think it's an issue. Again, it's a permitted use. I'd say the way the industry's going with electric vehicles, and it's a temporary problem, if any at all.
But the electric, since you raised the topic of electric vehicles, there are the spots at the McDonald's are not even being cited with EV chargers, right? They're only EV charging ready, is that correct?
There's 2 EV charger ready spots.
Okay. So has McDonald's ever done an air quality study for these sites that they are putting within residential neighborhoods to see what the air pollution concentrations are, X hundred feet or yards from the drive-through, since you essentially have idling cars the entire day during a busy day? That's, on summer days you're gonna have build up there.
In the 60 or so projects I've worked on, it hasn't been something that's been requested.
Okay. Are you aware that we have a community energy plan that was endorsed by the Morris Plains Council this year that seeks to reduce carbon emissions?
No.
Do you believe that a drive-through in our downtown is counterintuitive to reducing carbon emissions? And has McDonald's ever completed a study on this, particularly as part of their corporate climate action plans?
I'm not aware of their corporate climate action plan.
You mentioned that you've designed 13 of the 60 McDonald's in residential areas. How many of them were in downtown, like proposed here?
I'd say 7 of the 13 were in downtown areas.
Where is the nearest one?
The nearest one, we've got, I'd say, Fairlawn being probably the nearest to this location, but also, yeah, Fairlawn.
So, just so the record's clear, there's been a couple questions about in a residential area. And Mr. Dwarf, I just want to be, so the record's clear, you're not testifying about projects you've done in areas designated residential, because this is a designated commercial property, correct?
Correct.
So when they're asking you about residential areas, that just relates to the public's comments about projects that are close to residential buildings, just so we're square, right?
Correct.
Okay. Sorry, continue.
No, I think we're fine there. So of those 7, so what is the logic behind citing a McDonald's in a downtown that is also, according to the master plan, designed to be pedestrian-centric, pedestrian-friendly, and yet 2/3 of the business is going to be coming from drive-through traffic? What is the logic behind that?
That's a great question for the planner,
Okay.
and our planner will squarely address that issue.
Okay. Who will own the site? Is it the franchisee or the developer?
It will be, I believe it's the property owner.
The
Currently
property
owns the site.
owner. Okay, so it's going to be leased to McDonald's essentially. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So I know you gave sort of an answer about liability, but I would like to go back to that with an authentic answer. If there is a liability related to accidents, vandalism, injuries, whatever might occur there, and somebody wants to sue, who is responsible? Is it McDonald's? Is it the property owner? Who is responsible legally?
Well, my answer was authentic in that if you get injured on a site or something happens to you on a site where there's a restaurant or any commercial business, a good lawyer will look to all potentially responsible parties and sue everybody. So that would be the property owner, the operator.
I understand that, but
No.
who is first in terms of liability? I mean, I own a home. If somebody comes to my house, I'm liable. If
Yeah, I
somebody-
can't answer that.
I think the question should be, really have to be aimed toward the testimony that was given by the witness. Mr. Toll has been, and I will allow him to, if he wants to respond, but that's just hypothetical questions that would be determined by the court. It should be, this board can't consider the hypothetical questions, but.
Okay, well, the reason I was asking, and I'll frame the question around that then, is I'm trying to understand why, if McDonald's, for instance, is liable, why there's no representative here for McDonald's. Wouldn't they be pretty interested in controlling their liability and understanding that the optimal design, from an engineering perspective, is put in place?
The witness, go ahead, ask him any question about what he testified with. But that's a good reason to make an argument at the end. When you want to give an argument, we're asked later on, but the questioning, and again, everybody can question, I'm not saying not to, has to be focused on what he testified to, not what he didn't testify to.
Just one last question. Have you reviewed the Morris Plains master plan?
As part of preparing the application, in reference to the zoning and permitted uses, the planner would touch upon that more.
The planner reviewed it, you did not?
I reviewed it from the sense of confirming that the zoning is what it is.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Hi, Ceclia Hahn, 82 Maple Ave.
Spell your last name.
Hahn. Just a quick question on the liability, sorry. Did your design take into account a reduction or minimizing liability to pedestrians?
I just caution you, don't give any legal opinions because you're not a lawyer. But if it relates to the safety of the crosswalk, is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Yeah, then you can say.
Yes, the consideration is given to making sure we design a safe site for cars and pedestrians.
Okay, thank you. In your opinion, about how many drive-through transactions can this McDonald's design handle per hour?
As I stated, at the beginning, we laid this out for implementing the standards for McDonald's, standards being the drive-through layouts. Traffic engineers here to talk about the trip generation side of things, and that will equate to number of trips on the site and out of the site, so I think you'd be better suited for that.
I was actually asking about the design. Just a little while ago, you said it's about 2 minutes from placing the order to collecting the order. So it sounded like that's something that you were thinking about in your design.
McDonald's is thinking about that in design, in developing their standard layouts. And with that, when we lay these out, there's certain distances that we try to hold from the payment window to the order point. So they go in 20-foot increments, and in this one, the distance, we've got a 101-foot lane, so that's basically, the ideal distance between the order point and the pay window in the McDonald's standard.
Okay, I'm awful at math, but I think that comes out to about 30 cars per hour. Ideal state, 2 minutes per car. Does that sound about right?
The target is what McDonald's plans, hopes to do as far as efficiency in their kitchen and preparing the orders. It's not saying there's going to be 2 minutes, there's going to be another order. There could be more, there could be less. Somebody placing a small order is not going to take the full 2 minutes.
That's a good point. Okay, so my other question was, will the updated design, which I think you mentioned you're presenting today, address more parking spaces?
It maintains the same number of parking spaces.
Okay. And then how specifically are non-peak hours defined for purposes of deliveries?
The non-peak hours are basically when it's stored, obviously when it's less busy, and they're established based on just experience from, other stores at the lunch rush, for example. It's usually like 11 to 1, so it would be after that 1 o'clock time.
Okay, so it's based on a national standard rather than peak or non-peak hours at that location, correct?
Correct.
And would there ever be multiple deliveries on the same day?
Well, no, usually it's twice per week, and it's only one truck, there's only one delivery provider for McDonald's.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Lauren Martin, I'm at 2 Beach Drive. And I just as a quick background for my question, I'm a pediatrician and a parent of children who actually have to cross here to get to and from school. We live on the other side of the tracks and there's no busing for our area, so this is a particular concern to me, and I asked the question on behalf of our kids, which is that, did this design take into account pedestrian traffic coming to and from Borough School, particularly during school opening and closing times when there's a significant amount of children walking here?
The design did consider it in that we typically will only do a traffic count for a project. In this case, we also did pedestrian counts just to be able to quantify, what the area, what the baseline in the area is. So I hope that answers the question. Again,
This space is unique in of that our school is here and all of our kids pretty much walk to and from. So I think that's something you should look at.
Thank you.
My name is Michelle Ring, I'm 22 Dayton Road. Michelle Ring, R-I-N-G, 22 Dayton Road. My question, I believe you answered this while I was in line, but I just wanted to confirm, as the engineer, were you presented to come up with designs specifically for this location, or were there other locations in Morris plans being considered?
we have looked at just this site for McDonald's in Washington.
And who selected this specific site? Was it just McDonald's that came to you and said this was the location that?
Correct, yes.
And then my question is for Frank too. Since there is currently no operator or owner, or anybody to kind of address or answer some of those questions on behalf, or on our behalf, what happens if the site does not, or is not able to obtain an operator or owner? What happens then?
Is not able to attain what? What was the question?
An operator or owner?
So, I don't know how to answer that, and it's a hypothetical that I mean, there's an owner of the property, there's an agreement to proceed with this, and then it'll be open to operators. They'll open the process up to see if there's operators who are interested, and I don't conceive of a situation where there's not an operator interested in this project. I don't. I mean, it's like any other land use approval, though. If we get our approvals, and there's no project, there's no project. I mean, it'll go back to either the owner of the property deciding an alternative use for the property, and they may have to come back before the board. But if it's anything else other than what we're getting approved here, they would have to come back to the board. It's not like, Kentucky Fried Chicken can waltz on in and take the site. I mean, they have their own specifications, they have their own plans, et cetera. So this approval is for this project, and if it's anything else, they'll have to come back.
Okay. And what does McDonald's look for in an operator?
Oh, I don't know. That's not a question for me.
Who can we ask as the community?
We can get you some information on that. What do you want to know specifically? What are the requirements?
What are the requirements that
Okay.
McDonald's looks for in an
Okay.
operator?
All right.
That would be helpful.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Hi, Jeffrey Spicka, 30 Sun Valley Way.
Spell last name?
Spicka. And I'm just trying to understand, if I'm in my car and I'm driving northbound and I'm approaching the site, and I know on my right is the exit for Dunkin' Donuts and the pizza place. What's the distance from the center line of that driveway to the center line of your driveway? Approximately.
So, I don't have that in my fingertips at the moment, but.
Did you look at that driveway when you did your placement of your driveway?
It's looked at as part of evaluating our design.
All right, so you can't provide me with that information at this point in time?
I don't have it on me at the moment.
Okay. So I'm continuing northbound, and now I'm approaching Hillview. What's the distance from the center line of that driveway, the new driveway, to the center line of Hillview?
So it's approximately 20, call it 30 feet.
Okay, so maybe 3 car lengths or something like that, approximately. And then what's the distance from the center line of Hillview to that pedestrian crosswalk? The new one proposed?
Center line Hillview to the crosswalk?
Yeah, center line of crosswalk.
So it's about 10 feet?
10 feet in 1 car. And then the next decision point, I'm continuing northbound, and what's that distance from the center of that crosswalk to Dayton? Now, the center line of Dayton.
50 feet.
50? So we have 10, 50, 30, and an unknown. So we have about 110 feet plus for 4 main, we have decision points now that are considered, is that correct? Approximately, somewhere in that neighborhood. 50 and 10, 30.
Is the question how many decision points are there?
Well, no, there's approximately 110, 100 feet between those, the driveway of the Dunkin' Donuts and then Dayton. Is that somewhere in the neighborhood?
So the lot. I mean, the site itself is about 160 feet wide.
Okay. Will there be a crosshatch out on 202 at the driveway egress? And will there be a box area out there?
No. So again, the revised plans that were submitted, we put a box in the intersection of Dayton and Speedwell Avenue.
Okay, so just the box?
Do not block the box strike.
Okay,
Yes.
at Dayton?
Yes.
Okay, nowhere else? Proposed, okay. All right. Looking at the site, I'm curious about what the distance is from where I place my order back or up the page to go towards 202. What is that distance? Let's say hypothetically that you couldn't order for a while. So now we have cars stacking, so I'm curious about how many cars stack in that distance from the order point to, I guess, the west, up the page, to that crosswalk. What is that distance, approximately?
So the number of stacking spaces that this layout provides is 17. So we've got 15 within the concrete area, and then we've got some additional room on site so we can fit.
So that's 15 each lane or 15 total?
Total for the drive-through facility.
Okay. So 7.5 each?
Well, again, they do merge into one, so before the merge, we get about four to five spaces per lane.
So the crosswalk that's perpendicular to the driveway where I place my order up top there, it goes over that trapezoid.
Orders are placed at the two.
Right there, and then up to that crosswalk is up.
So it's 100 feet?
No, I'm not, I'm going the other way. I'm talking about going backwards there.
The distance
Yes.
is there?
Yep.
So it's about 101 feet.
And how many cars can fit from that crosswalk to that order place?
Again, four to five per lane for 8 to 10 total.
Okay, so 10 vehicles can fit in there?
Yes.
Okay. All right. That's all I have. Thank you.
Hi, Joanne Dugan, 31 Canfield Place. I just had a question regarding the bus drop-off. You were saying like you want a bus parking, but say we do have that Central Park where there's many sporting, and so they would come in and they could drop off and then go in and order. Where would the bus park while the people are in the restaurant ordering?
Not on site, I don't.
Well, then they would have to park on Dayton Road or Spicka Avenue or Hillview or Rosedale, and.
They'd have to park wherever a bus can't park.
Well, there is no bus parking there as far as I know, but, so they're gonna drop people off and then the bus is gonna have to go find parking somewhere? That doesn't seem very likely that that would happen. So I think the bus would probably stay in the parking lot. And I'm just thinking, where's that bus gonna go after it drops off all its people, onto our residential road, which is Dayton Road. So just something to think about.
Thank you.
Hi, Angela Lewis, Lewis, 126 Glenbrook Road. 126 Glenbrook Road. Yeah, just a quick question as the point of comparison. You mentioned the Fairlawn McDonald's. Is that 3701 Broadway?
Yes.
So that is actually Route 4, a 4-lane state highway.
Yes.
So that is the comparison to this going on our main street in town? Or is there another one that you would recommend us to compare it to?
The comparison was something that's adjacent to residential uses, and that one abuts a residential use and a residential neighborhood.
So is there another one that's on a road like Speedwell with residential, you know, resident houses all around, a school, a 2-lane road?
Yes, so, Bayonne Broadway is center of town.
Which one?
Bayonne Broadway.
Bayonne Broadway.
Or
Okay, I think a lot of
Broadway.
us are just trying to understand how this might work in a different tab. We could look at something comparison.
Sure.
So Bayonne Broadway. Okay, thank you.
I am Bill Lachance, Lachance, 13 Higby Way. Just a couple questions. Is there an option for a smaller footprint store? The reason I ask is there seems to be a disconnect between, I think it was testified that the parking was going to be sufficient because, you know, most people use the drive-through and not as many people use the dining room any longer. And the question I would have is why build a dining room of this size? So the question is there an option to go with a smaller footprint store?
So actually, despite the size of the building as it appears, most of it is back of house, the limited customer service area. Again, there's only 39 seats, so that's a small store by comparison to, you know, some stores go up to 90 seats. So this is just a fraction of what a larger McDonald's accommodates.
And as far as the employee parking, I know there's been speculation on people drive and won't drive. Couldn't there just a survey be done of like 10 stores to see what percentage of people actually, you know, drive to work? So we have an average across these stores, it's 8 people, or at the peak time, or 9 people, or whatever it is. Has anyone ever done or asked for that kind of study?
No one's asked for that in the past. No.
Thanks.
Hello, Carolyn Bennett, 19 Dayton. That's B as in boy, E-N-N-E-T-T. 3 quick questions. My first one's about crosswalks, and I know you testified about that last time. We're hearing it a lot tonight. So, what is the plan for the improvements that the town is already planning on making to the crosswalk on Speedwell if this was to go through? Specifically, will the crosswalk optimizations that you've walked us through be completely disregarded because the town would have just spent time, effort, resources in optimizing the crosswalk that's existing? Or would there be a duplicate crosswalk? Can you kind of talk me through this, please?
The plan that is before the board is for the one crosswalk as designed, or as depicted here. So there's one currently, that one will be removed and replaced with the one that's shown on the screen.
So the one that is going to be replaced will be replaced regardless of the optimizations that the town is investing in, which came of light as of last week's town meeting?
Yes, because this plan proposes just one crosswalk.
And then specific to your expertise and credentials, which I know you led your testimony with last time, can you remind us or let us know when you were first introduced to this project?
Offhand, I don't have the exact date, but it was earlier this year. Or
So there was
last
no,
year.
you weren't involved in any of this around October of last year?
I don't believe so.
Okay. And my last question is specifically about the staffing, because I know last time we were here, you spoke at great lengths about the 12 to 15 shifts, I believe, shift workers, I believe, at a time, relating to the parking and not being a concern. So I would like to think that you're pretty well versed in the staff. I'm just a little bit curious as a resident of the road, what type of staff does McDonald's hire? And are there any parameters, especially being on a road with kids and across from a school and what have you?
I don't have their specific hiring parameters.
Uh-huh.
They vet all of their employees prior to hiring them.
What specifically are you concerned about? Like what?
Felons, sex offenders, anyone that's gonna be a danger to my kids, kids across, anyone in general. I feel like McDonald's is a very forgiving corporation based on the minimal research that I've done specific to the staffing. So I'm hoping that could be maybe a follow-up then that we can talk about.
Sure.
Cool. Alrighty, thanks.
Rachel Reinhart, 40 Styles Avenue, Reinhart. Follow up on the staffing. In the McDonald's location I was recently updated in Cedar Knolls, it's not a drive-through, but inside they're more automated ordering. So the staff is looking minimal from like a customer-facing position. Is that the plan at this facility to put more automated ordering inside? And if so, do you consider that there might be extra traffic with drive-through? Because people don't like they get confused a little bit with the automated ordering. So how would that change with traffic?
So the final, I guess, interior layout is not finalized in the regard of the dining area, and that would fall into, you know, the number of kiosks provided, but I do believe this will have the typical front counter and the, you know, automated function of ordering at a screen if you choose. So it'll be both.
Okay, so again, at this other one, there's no one working at the front, there's just giving out the food and everything's automated. So if that's gonna be the case, how will that change staffing and parking and longer lines in the drive-thru?
I would
And
say,
has that been considered, I guess?
I have not considered that change in staffing there. If anything, it would be less staff in the building. I don't think that would change the drive-through characteristics.
Okay, okay, just another thing to think about. Thanks.
Thank you.
Dan Conway, 3 Green Road, Morris Plains, New Jersey. Are there any rules or limitations in the parking allowing individuals to go through the drive-through and then eat on site in their car?
There are no limitations, no.
It was just an observation. I noticed that at McDonald's that you worked at, that a significant number of people do that, which would then put stress on the parking capacity of the site. Is there parking, did you consider any of the parking rules on Dayton Avenue in your design? Is there any restrictions to parking on the side of Dayton next to the site?
No, nothing's proposed in this application. No restrictions on dating.
In the drive-through, is there limitations on the volume of the speaker of the drive-through, the machines?
There is, yes.
And last question, who is your client? Is it the property owner, McDonald's, council?
McDonald's is my client.
McDonald's Corporation. And there is, just to be clear, no representation from McDonald's here tonight.
Yes.
As a corporation, as someone that works directly for
Yes,
McDonald's.
there is.
There is someone here from
Yes.
McDonald's.
Yes.
Will they be speaking at any time?
Not this evening.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes.
Let's take a 15-minute break.
Mike's are off. Do you continue recording?
Yeah. Here, we can walk.
Oh, that's fine. I was just gonna ask you when you're thinking about.
Hold your off.
When are you gonna?
Okay, thank you. We are going to recall, actually, we're not going to recall, he's sitting right next to me. We're going to have Mr. Duarte now introduce some plan revisions. We'd like to have this slide deck of plan revision marked as Exhibit 5. I think we're up to 5, A5. And so, Mr. Duarte, we're still under oath, sir. There's qualifications. We're still all good, correct?
Correct.
All right. And just tell everyone just briefly what you're going to present for us this evening.
So at the end of the last meeting, there were a number of comments shared by the public, the board. We took those back to our office. We made some changes to the plans, and basically I'll just walk through the changes that were made, the plans that were resubmitted on the 7th of this month, and just how we revised the plans to address the comments that we received from.
And Mr. Duarte, these were in response, these revisions, to both comments we received from the public and from the board?
Correct.
Okay, go ahead, proceed, please.
So for this, I'm going to start with the new exhibit, and this is entitled Site Plan Rendering. And similar to the last iteration, it's a colorized depiction of the site plan.
Want to close the lights?
Excuse me, do you have a hard copy of this?
I do.
Okay, then I don't place one up there now. I'll mark it.
And again, this is A5 site plan rendering with today's date. And as I was saying, it's a colorized version of the site plan that was resubmitted. We also superimposed the landscaping, and in this iteration, we actually turned on the aerial background to just give more context to the surrounding area. So the biggest and foremost change that we made was redesigning the Dayton Avenue driveway. I'll zoom in on that here. So the sorry about that.
Yeah. That's it.
The change that we made is basically redesigning it, angling it to, in an effort to reduce the likelihood and deter anyone from using this driveway exit to make a right turn onto Dayton Ave. So the angle is approximately 60 degrees to the road. In redesigning it, we also shifted it west, so further from the residential properties that we border. Again, the existing driveway that's there is 31 feet from that residential property line, the shared lot line with lot 6. The previous iteration of the plan had a 45-foot distance to the property line, so it was an increase from what's out there today. And this iteration, we're shifting that driveway further still to 80. What was that? Sure. So the prior iteration had the driveway approximately here, where we now put 2 parking spaces. And the property line to the east is where my cursor is hovering now, so just below the 2 parking spaces. And we've shifted it to 85 feet from that from the existing property line. So that's, a 40-foot increase in separation to the residential from the prior iteration, and 54 feet further away from the residential property than what's out there existing today. The driveway's also been reduced in width. It's now 15 feet instead of 20 feet. Again, the intent being to further deter anyone from making a right out onto Dayton. We provided signage, both on-site and striping to reinforce that that's the movement intended there, and we've got right turn restrictions noted accordingly. We also made some minor tweaks to the driveway on Spiegel Avenue. We shifted it about 3 feet north, so further into our property, and we made it wider, 5 feet wider, from 25 feet to 30 feet. The intent there was, again, to just improve maneuverability of exiting traffic, specifically if you're coming from the drive-through lane and exiting out onto Speedwell Avenue. In response to comments also provided by the board traffic engineer, we did widen the radius of this curve, so basically the curve that connects the bypass lane, which is the lane that goes in front of the store, and the drive-through driveway exit. Previously, we had 10 feet, so we widened that to 15 feet, giving cars more room to make that turn into the stop bar area. On this plan, we also show the improvements that we are proposing in the DOT's right of way. So we've widened the crosswalk to 10 feet. Previously, that was 6 feet, and that is a request that the DOT had when we met with them at our pre-application meeting. We've also installed, or we're showing the proposed signage for the pedestrian crossing. We've got one on each side of the roadway, and those have the push-button actuators that will actuate the flashing beacons for anyone who wants to press those and cross the road. And we've also added do not block the box striping on Dayton Road. The other and most substantial change we did is really bolster up the landscaping plan. The rear area, the buffer between the store and the existing use to our east, we've incorporated a 3-foot berm that was requested at the last meeting. The berm does not run the full length of the rear. The reason for that is there are 3 mature evergreen trees there, basically where my cursor is hovering. So we've got, they're around the trash enclosure area. So we've provided the berm basically to the extent that we could. It's about 80 feet in length, or half the property. We've got 3 feet of berm there, and we've provided a substantial number of additional plantings. So we've got we have 25 additional evergreen shrubs, 29 deciduous shrubs, 9 evergreen trees, and we've provided most of those in the rear area to create a staggered design that is multiple rows of plantings. And then we've also incorporated perimeter plantings along the Dayton Road side, so headlights and traffic moving around on site will be screened from the adjacent roadways. We've got additional plantings along the Speedwell right of way, curb line. And the other improvements that we made is to provide the bike parking that was requested at the last meeting. So we've added that next to the pedestrian facilities along the Speedwell side. We provided trash receptacles. There's 4. It's a little tough to see on this plan, but there are 4 trash receptacles proposed on site to provide, a means of collecting trash within the parking area. They're just hard to see because they're so small, but there's one here next to the EV charger, and there's one on the opposite side, serving the middle of the parking bank there. And just some other changes that we made was to also incorporate the Belgian block curbing. That was a request from the engineer in response to the performance standards for the site. So we've got that incorporated. We've provided stone trenching and perforated piping for our stormwater system. And basically what that'll do is take any stormwater runoff that's going to be flowing through our inlets and conveying in our system, give that the opportunity to infiltrate into the subsoil. That'll basically enhance stormwater management and reduce runoff exiting the site. And we also revised the lighting plan. We still have the same number of light fixtures, but we picked a less intense fixture bulb to reduce the lighting levels on site. So previously we had an average of 4.25 foot candles on site. We've reduced that to 2.46 foot candles. The maximum, the maximum intensity at any one point previously was 11.8 foot candles. We've reduced that down to 5. So bringing it, toning down the light levels, but still maintaining the safety for pedestrian and parking.
Mr. Duarte, just if people are not familiar with the terminology, just explain what a berm is.
A berm is just a mound of dirt, an elevated area, so and just zoom back into the rear. So the parking area is at one level, it would go up 6 inches with this curb, and then the ground will slope up to, in a gradual fashion, 3 feet, and provide a level surface at the top where we have all these trees planted.
And what's the benefit of a berm?
It's additional screening. It makes the landscaping that's proposed a little taller, so it enhances the landscaping and screening.
Thank you.
And that really summarizes the changes that we made to the plan.
We don't have any other questions for Mr. Duarte.
Okay. So do we have any questions from the public?
Obviously, the public is again, welcome to ask any questions. This is one thing that's limited to this exhibit and the testimony that he just gave. As you know, there's going to be a traffic expert, and I know there's going to be some questions there. But any questions?
Oh, does the board have, I'm sorry. How about our engineer and our planner? No? Does the board have any questions about this particular? Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? I submitted a report dated October 18th, 2024, which addressed the recent changes which were just spoken about by the site engineer. Just a few things that I'd like him to clarify. The shift on Speedwell Avenue of the access drive, it's about 3 to 4 feet further north. My concern there was previously when it was located further south, that drive inbound, it was a very twisted alignment, big lateral shift for somebody entering to get into either of those drive-through lanes. And from the concept plan, they shifted once a little bit more. Now I think they've maxed it out based on the DOT's requirement to be 100 feet from the Dayton Road corner radius to the drive curb cut. So this has maxed it out. One thing I requested, and I'd like to know if they provided it, I mean, it definitely looks better. Have you prepared any passenger vehicle turning templates to show how a driver coming in from Speedwell, how they orient to either one of those two drives, just to show that the vehicle is going to be able to do it comfortably? That was one of my comments.
We can provide that.
So you will provide it for next year. Okay. Provided the delivery of refuse truck templates. In terms of the driveway realignment on Dayton Road is approximately 60 degrees, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, just if you would label that on the plan also. And could you just note with that realignment, on the opposing side of the street, one of the reasons for the realignment, it wasn't only just to provide better circulation for the trucks, but also to be able to move the headlights up from being directly into a resident across the street, as well as to make it more difficult for somebody to make a right turn out from that drive, which is supposed to be signposted and restricted. Can you just show us where on your plan, where the residential limitations are, the properties on the other side of the street in relation to your new location?
Okay, so if we're looking at the 2 parking spaces,
That's where the drive was before.
this is where it was before, which aligned with the driveway across the street, so that's why we further shifted it to the west, to get it basically outside of the limits of the residential property. Now we're coming out basically in line with the bank across the street.
Okay, so you're not facing a residential property?
Correct.
That's what I wanted to be sure. Surely. And I had some other comments on signage, things I wanted added to whatever. Do you have any problem incorporating my comments on signage and striping, whatever?
No, we can look at this.
And in terms of the beacons, the pedestrian crossing, actuated beacons, at a relocated location on Speedwell, said the DOT has ultimate approval of that and has looked at this proposed design and made recommendations. So this is in conformance with what they see.
Correct. It's in response to the DOT pre-application meeting we had.
Okay, that's all I have.
Okay, how about the board? You want to start, Steve? John?
I do have a question. Was there any thought given to the egress from McDonald's and the bank entrance directly across the street? It just seems to me that that's gonna be a busy little area, especially on a Saturday when people do a lot of the banking, people are going to McDonald's.
So typically you want driveways to align across the street. This one's offset to facilitate that movement out, to not have it, be right next to the building and conflict with anything that could be going on site. So as far as conflicts in the roadway, I don't anticipate any.
Hi there, just a quick question. There was a couple of questions that came up about the grease trap. So can you let us know, is the grease trap in the same position as the one that was there for Friendlies, or the one that currently exists in Friendlies? Is it moved back? Is it moved forward? Where is it in relation?
So I don't know for sure if the Friendlies had a grease trap. If they did, it wasn't picked up on the site survey. I think.
Okay, can you look into that, because I'm fairly certain there is one that exists there. So I'm just questioning how far back it is, or how far forward
Sure,
it is.
we'll look into that.
Thank you.
I would just like to ask one thing. It's in the letter that it's in the letter that we received. The existing two-way drive with Dayton Road is to be modified, relocated, realigned, with restricted exiting, one-way left turn. Obviously, that sounds very good, but can you give me a little more explanation about relocated, realigned?
Yes, so there's a full movement driveway out there today, so it's ingress and egress to the Friendly site currently, or former Friendly site. We, in our prior iteration, relocated that further north, so further west, from its current location where it is today. And that's about where I show the two parking spaces that are perpendicular to Dayton Road. And in the new proposal, we've further shifted that more to the west, away from the residential driveway and properties to our east. And it still remains as a restricted, so it's only exit only. You cannot enter the site from the two driveways in both iterations.
Thank you.
I have a couple questions about the exit on Dayton. The apron there that abuts the street, does it remain that size, or can you shrink that down? And does the curbing on the east side of that apron, does the curbing continue on that apron to deter people further from making a right?
So the apron that we have shown is about 1.5 feet, and that's very hard to see on the screen. So typically we go with a 3-foot apron, and that basically is a transition from the full height curb down to the depressed curb. So we went smaller than we would typically go to make the change from the full height to the depressed curb more abrupt. We could make it even more so we could go to a hard 6-inch transition here, and really taper that down in 6 inches or so to further make it more difficult and have a more pronounced curve on the eastbound side. On the west side, we've got the same flare there, so 3.5 foot instead of our typical 3 foot. We do continue the apron slightly, and that's really for the truck circulation, and actually that's a good point. I'll share that in a second. We need that space to just maintain the truck exiting out onto Dayton.
So the curb will continue on that apron?
Yes.
At what height?
It's 1.5 inches at the pavement, so it's the depressed curb.
And then what is it towards the sidewalk?
6 inches.
Okay. We talked about the lighting being dimmed at night even further than lowering the output of the fixture itself. Is that still taken into consideration?
Yes, the revised plan just shows all lighting on, but yes, McDonald's agrees to turn off lights that are not needed at nighttime from a safety and security perspective.
The trash enclosure, we discussed that at the last meeting as well. Was there any changes to the enclosure and the gate operation?
So we did have we revised the detail to show the automatic the latching to keep it locked. We're still working on finding something with like a timer function. So that intent remains. We definitely want to incorporate that. We just haven't found the correct system for that yet.
And how about the hours of operation? Was that considered? I know it's not on a plan, but was that considered from the last meeting?
Yes, we're maintaining the hours from our prior testimony.
Which was?
5 a.m. to 1 a.m.
But I thought we discussed 1 a.m. is incorrect.
No, we did adjust the hours. We'll have
a lot of paperwork, sorry.
Yeah, no, Mr. Duarte, you don't have to testify that. We'll get the hours.
And can you just testify exactly again what signage is on the exit on Dayton Road?
So on Dayton Road, we've got do not enter signs on either side of the driveway. That's pointing out to Dayton, just indicating that it's an egress only, so that no one can turn into that driveway. We've got no left turn signs, and we've got stop signs at the stop bar.
Is the arrow a standard size arrow, left turn arrow?
It is.
Painted arrow?
Yes.
Is there any way you can enhance that?
Absolutely, we can make it larger.
Let me go back. I wasn't going to start with hours, but I'll continue with
So
it.
the mayor, the hours were adjusted to 6 to 11.
6 to 11?
Yes.
Okay. That's what similar to Cedar Knolls is 6, where they have actually 12, but 11 is better. All right. Go back down to the conservation easement down there. Now you're going to put an 8-foot vinyl fence in the back, right?
Yes.
Are you going to go make a right turn and hit the other building, the Dunkin' Donuts building?
There is a fence there, but we can absolutely.
Yeah, there's a fence there. You're going to put 8 foot there too, right?
If that's the request, we can.
That's what I'm talking about. Now, are there white pines back here?
There are, yes.
And what size? This is in the buffer area. 6 to 8?
Yeah, at planting, 6 to 8 feet.
6 to 8, okay. Let's go to the exit now. The exit you have 15 foot wide. I think 12-foot would be better. You don't, anything can get through 12 foot. That's what a highway exit is, a lane is. So you can do 12 foot. So that gives you an extra 3 feet. So now you probably can go around the site, pick up a foot here and a foot there, and you'll probably get one more parking space. And I think you should consider doing that as a suggestion. The other thing is, I'm thinking here, you said that 2/3 of the people come through the drive-throughs. Are you telling me that the other third are going into the dining room?
Yes.
Are they?
The traffic engineer will elaborate on the traffic counts they've completed, but yes.
Okay, here's my question. I'm coming home from work and I want to get a stop at McDonald's, and I go onto my McDonald's app and I place my order. Do I go through the whole drive-in, or do I pass the drive-in and come to the back, come to the other side?
So the mobile ordering works 3 different ways. You can go into the drive-thru, you can park, or you can go into the store. It's customer's preference.
So I still have to go through that drive-thru?
If you choose to.
But I put my order in, right?
Correct.
So where do I pick it up, on the other side? Or do you have someone come out and give it to me? Because you go over to Cedar Knolls, they go out and give it to people.
So again, if you're gonna pick up your mobile order from the drive-thru, you'll enter the drive-thru as a typical drive-thru user. You still stop at that first order point, so these two.
I will still have to stop at the board and order again?
If you're choosing to pick up that way. You can also go and park in the mobile order spaces, in which you use your app and.
So I go into the place and you give it to me there?
Or you can do that.
Or I can pick it up on the pickup out. Is that right?
Pick up parking spaces.
Yes.
Yes.
But no one's gonna be walking out to give it to me?
If you're using the pickup spaces, which are the 2 of these spaces in yellow, closest to the.
Oh, I could park there and wait for them to drop it off to me?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So that's part of the third that's getting there. It's not going into the dining area, right?
Correct.
Okay. Where do the people who deliver McDonald's orders, where do they stay? Where do your vehicles that deliver?
I'll deliver. So I'll actually bring up another exhibit here. So this is the
Exhibit 6?
A6. There's a hard copy.
Exhibit 6, right?
Yes. So A6, this is the vehicle circulation exhibit, today's date. Similar to the prior iteration, what this just shows is the delivery truck coming into the site. In this iteration, we have it coming right in, so coming northbound along Speedwell Avenue and turning into the site. The prior iteration, we had it coming southbound and making a left, so this just shows that the tractor trailer can make both of those maneuvers into the property, either left or right. Then it circulates the site, and my prior testimony was that it would the delivery truck would stage on the south side of the building, either in this area next to the parking spaces, and we've also got the space on the easterly side of the building, where the truck can stop in the parking area.
I'm not worried about what you're getting there. I'm saying don't you also deliver Big Macs to somebody if they order them?
Oh, yes.
That's what I'm doing. Where do they park?
So those are we've got 4 mobile order spaces. So there's 2 for the pull forwards and then 4 mobile order. And those mobile orders are all encompassing. So it's someone using the app, someone making a delivery with a different app.
Okay.
So
And so that's part of the third too? when you talk about it?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a question, sir. I just wanted to ask, if you were to provide adequate parking, reasonable amount for the number of employees that would be employed here, and we didn't grant the variance for the modification, the amount of parking spaces, can you modify your plan to meet our requirements?
So the parking calculation is twofold. One is based on number of seats, which we do comply with. Again, the plan that was submitted, 39 seats, we need 16 spaces, we have 30 spaces. To provide the additional spaces, which are based on the building square footage, we would need 41 spaces, so we would need to add 11 on site. And we could probably accommodate some more spaces, but adding all 11 on this site would be a challenge.
I don't think you're answering what I asked you. I said, if we don't grant the variance and you have to comply with what we're requiring, can you modify your plans?
Respectfully, don't you want to hear from our planner first? The planner is going to make the legal argument as to whether or not he believes we're entitled to a variance, and that's when we haven't even put on our proofs yet. So I mean, we're going to put on a legal case as to why we think we're entitled to it, and if the board doesn't think we are, we'll have to look at an alternative, I guess. But until that happens, I think it's premature to ask. He's testifying as to facts, but as to the planning argument to why we're entitled to a variance, we're going to make those arguments, and they're either going to be persuasive or not.
Okay. With the fact that it's only a 2-lane highway, do you think that your site can actually handle the amount of anticipated business without having cars stacked out on Speedwell Avenue in both directions?
Yes, absolutely.
So you have actual numbers of what your anticipated sales will be?
Well, the traffic numbers, the traffic engineer will testify to that.
And when I was looking at numbers, am I incorrect, when you look at it in comparison to what Friendly's, they're basically, you've doubled the amount of cars that will be coming into your site?
The comparison to the trips, yeah, the traffic engineer will touch upon those.
So you've doubled the amount of cars, and yet there's no adverse effect in the traffic, is what you're saying, even though we've doubled the amount of traffic that's coming in and out of that site?
But I think he said that the traffic engineer is going to answer that question. Okay.
Thank you.
Can you just sort of expand a little bit on how much wider you've made the lanes so that the trucks can, so that the delivery truck can maneuver better?
Sure. So, go back to that exhibit. The drive aisle along the south side of the building is 18 feet, and on the south side of the east side of the building, sorry, the drive aisle is 20 feet. So, if we've got a delivery truck parked on the east side of the building, he'll take up no more than, call it half. He'll take up 10 feet, so there's still 10 feet for cars to circulate out or around the site. And we've confirmed we can get a delivery truck that does side loading, and what that'll allow us to do is to bring deliveries in through the rear door of the store instead of having to go all the way back around the site with the palletized deliveries.
Okay, no more questions of our professionals?
So when that tractor trailer comes, if there's cars parked there, they're gonna be able to get out?
No, so while the truck is there, depending on how they stage, they've got 20-ish feet in front of the trash area, so they're only blocking maybe 3 or 4 spaces when they're in this area where the cursor is located.
And Mr. Duarte, explain to everyone how it practically is going to work when the tractor trailer pulls up to do its loading and unloading. Where is where are they gonna get the stuff? Is it from the back of the truck, the middle? Can you just take people through so you understand exactly how it's supposed to work?
Sure, so the tractor trailer, it's loading either from the rear doors or the side doors. So the product that's being delivered can either be removed from the back. So say the parking spaces, there's 3 cars next to the trash enclosure, but there's no parking further to the Dayton Road side. So that they can pull up and they can either remove the product that's being delivered from the side door, or they can pull it out from the front door. Again, the delivery crews, they're very familiar. They only deliver to McDonald's. They're familiar with site operations. They want to make as little impact on site while they're there.
And I apologize, go ahead. As I apologize, I interrupted you.
No. I still don't see it happening.